industry. Good people, though.
Well, at this point, guys, things are being recorded.
I hope they got
everyone
that
gets
point
so
about
quiet
saying
after
good
I say that.
I know, every time. Let's see.
Okay.
Was it Michael Bozeman?
No, that name rings a bell too.
Yeah.
No, he had really kind of like a one-syllable last name. Started Dominion, then he went to another startup.
Oh, okay, so he's no longer there.
No, yeah. You can look it
Gotcha.
up.
Yeah, I knew a lot of people from over that sector, and most of them aren't there anymore.
Sos, that's what it was, Sos.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Mike
Sos went over
Sos.
to trade
Yeah.
pending.
Mike Sos,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, Mike's a great guy.
He is.
Yeah,
I know. I
him-
really enjoyed
yeah.
conversation. He pretty much adopted us at one NADA when we showed up, walking the floor. When he
That's
learned about what the Oracle
that's Sos
Alliance
for
were
you.
both available.
Yeah, that's Sos for you. Super
Yeah, I'm
nice
not
guy.
sure where
I haven't
Sos
spoken to him
is
for a
now.
while.
I don't know where Sos is. Yeah.
I spoke to him, maybe 8 months ago, maybe a year. Who knows? Everything's a blur right now.
Yeah.
And he was working for another reputation company, and I think he was branching out and was starting with some type of small reputation company, and was building that part out. And then there's a part of me that thinks that he was branching out to do something with himself, but I'm not. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
I need to reach out to him.
I'm going to look him up after this session, too, and reach out as well just to say hi.
Yeah, I'll email him right now.
All right. Tell him Chris Marshall says hi, too, then.
Oh, well.
Yeah, a lot of those guys went with Bryce Englert over to trade pending after Dominion.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. I was texting Bryce earlier today,
Just
actually.
happens to be the last Refresh Friday show.
Yep.
We got
Good
5
people in the
seconds.
industry.
Here,
It's actually
guys.
going to be nice to get back together again now that this COVID cloud is.
COVID cloud.
Well, you guys just got back from an in-person event. I'm very jealous of you, too, because that's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
What's
actually,
that?
I'm in Southern Cal here, so it was up in Napa. And the ironic part is it actually takes a long time to get from either, Oakland Airport or San Francisco up to Napa, but especially without any rental cars. But once you're there in Napa, it's just gorgeous. On the last day before I left, I did a 6 a.m. bike ride through the vineyards. Oh, it was so nice. I'm going, why didn't I do this the other days before the session started? It was awesome.
I bet. Did that show, I think when he first did it years ago. And yeah, that was some good memories. Some good friends came out of it. Something about alcohol and, all being stuck together. But
Well, you're in Napa Valley, so you have to get exposed to some really good wines.
Yep, that too. And that Brian's good with picking out some very strong flavors.
He actually
Yeah,
had
he's
every evening he had someone from some of the boutique wineries come out to kind of share their latest with us and had a sampling, and that was a privilege.
Will y'all
But
be at
also,
his?
Alex, it was also just nice to be back together. I was a digital dealer in Tampa. That was really nice to be back, seeing buddies again. Not just networking, but just seeing people that you really appreciate over the years. You're seeing them again, and again, that was reiterated in Napa. And I'm already so looking forward to NADA in March. We missed New Orleans, though. Dang it.
Well, we got digital dealer before then. That's mid-October,
Digital dealer,
right?
Yeah, digital dealer, and then Brian's event in Florida. And then driving sales is coming up in October, I think. So yeah, here we go with the circuit again. And who knows, maybe even CES, right?
Right.
You sound excited about it.
Yeah, that's a different craziness, high energy there. I don't think I even went. I didn't go one. I didn't even go to the expo floor or anything on that. Though that was just a constant, like a cattle call of humans going everywhere. At least two seasons ago.
One thing you'll learn about Chris, he loves being around people. And what a lot of people don't realize is while we've been kind of building this fuel machine, it's we were doing it remotely for so long. A lot of us just met each other, a month or two ago in person.
Oh, really?
That's
been pretty incredible. Yeah.
That is true. We're going to go to a Cubs game next week, AJ, with the team.
Yeah.
We're going to have like 30 of us there. I can't wait because people that you and I have hired, I have not met in person at all. And it bums me out because of COVID. And the funny thing is we hired AJ, via Zoom. And then he and his wife came out to SoCal and we had a wonderful dinner together. We like knew each other because we spent so much time together already, but just not in person. That's been a weird part. So getting back to the old way of interacting, that's going to be, I'm so looking forward to that again.
Oh, yes.
For sure. Well, how about continuing the semi-Zoom trend here, and why don't you tell everybody who you all are, and what you're doing in the industry, and what makes you so cool?
I don't know about cool. I mean, I'm kind of on the data nerd side, but
that's cool.
First of all, thanks. Alex and Jeff, thanks for having us here. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys and to talk shop like we like to do. My background, I've been on the client side in automotive the last 20 plus years. I've been on the OEM client side, been on the agency side, in the partner side, and it's been a wealth of experience. My most recent role before this was I headed up all the automotive retail efforts for Oracle Data Cloud. So we basically were the ones that kind of instilled the whole concept of audience planning, the importance of audience planning versus media planning, because we had access. We were the marketplace, the distributors of all the different types of data. So in-market data, new and used vehicles, all 5 of the profit centers at dealerships, including parts and service and finance. So it was wonderful. We had line of sight, and the technology now allows us to get more granular with targeting. So that was my primary role at Oracle before this. And then before that, I was with DealerTrack and then with JD Power and Associates. And then before that, marketing roles with the automakers. I'm out of the West Coast, but as you know, you don't just sit in one place.
No, definitely not. I remember, I guess, you were making a lot of ties with a lot of different vendors in the industry because, man, I think everyone was using Oracle data back in the day.
And no one knew who we were until Oracle came out saying, hey, did you people know? And I'll be honest with you, Jeff, we together rode the wave with Facebook. So the Oracle audiences, in-market refined audiences available when Facebook started becoming a common another vehicle or a communication platform. So we kind of rolled out together. We shared info. We did pitches together. So that we were kind of beneficial to each other. But yeah, dealers didn't realize, I don't have to be hitting demographic targeting of women, 18 to 49. I can actually reach people who are raised their hand, or they're a signal that they're in market for a newer used vehicle. And dealers were not aware of that. I mean, others were, but at the retail level, no. So really, it came to be a play about audience targeting, being smart about who you're reaching as opposed to where you're going to spend your money.
You
we'll get into that a little bit more, I suspect.
You kind of have to use Oracle data now since the whole Cambridge Analytica mess with Facebook. And what was that, 5 years ago?
I don't know if you have to use it. I mean, what's happened, especially with COVID coming, Oracle kind of de-emphasized the marketplace. They've kind of shifted their focus. So now the groups like Polk and the other distributors or data sources like Experian, Equifax, V12, they're now setting up their own relationships with the communication platforms. And I think you can still get syndicated audiences on via Oracle, but nothing customized anymore. And that was the big part. Some of those segments worked really well. Other ones did not. And we'll get into it more too. And we did bake-offs of which audiences performed really well, even amongst platforms. And we'll get to it, and obviously the first-party data, but I'm getting ahead of myself here.
Let's see how excited he is to jump into it. Yeah.
So AJ, steal the mic.
Yeah.
Oh, well, my background initially started in sports operations, sales, marketing. I actually started, I attended Oral Roberts University and worked in operations with their basketball team. And it was fun to see that Sweet 16 run this past March. That was fun. And, over my time and career in sports, I'm based in Chicago, started meeting some wonderful people, met some people from cars.com, and somebody introduced me, said, hey, we'd love you to come speak to some of our friends over there. We think you'd be a great fit within the culture of the company. And I spent some time, went over, and just going into the office, seeing the smile, seeing people excited to be there was definitely contagious. So got the conversation going, started on our inside sales team, consulting dealers across the country. Shortly after that, moved to the Chicagoland, South Chicagoland area, Northwest Indiana area, consulting dealers in the field. From there, went to manage our account management team, just really working on retention, being proactive consultants. And 8 years later, get the call from Chris and Dean and Terry and started the conversation with Fuel. So just passed my 9 year with cars.com.
Congratulations.
Yeah, appreciate
that's
it.
great.
It's been great. It's been fun.
And AJ is also a huge collector of sports memorabilia too. So he can go down that path just as much.
Yeah. Love sports. love collecting. Collector of things. I like. There's plenty of things that I don't know if I should be collecting, but hey, once you get in it, you're in it. Yeah.
Yeah, might run something by you on that front. We just discovered something in
Alex,
my parents' attic. So.
Okay.
Yeah, Alex has quite a few of his own collecting obsessions.
Yeah.
Not like my dad did. That's.
Well, now you have
we found I think it was a complete set, 1953 Ted Williams. Like every card Ted Williams was in that year. And they're like perfect condition. I'm not sure if it was 53, but it was definitely the 50s.
We need to talk for sure. And, speaking of Ted
Williams, everyone in St. Louis, AJ.
Oh yeah, I mean, speaking of Ted Williams, one time I was at an event and I saw this like crumpled up photo, and it was a photo of Ted Williams in his youth that was signed, and they were asking, I don't know, $15-20 for the thing. And I hey, no risk, right? Bought it, brought it, and had PSA, DNA, the guys that authenticate everything. They're like, yep, that's a legit signature on there. And it's a photo. A lot of people don't really see them. Yeah. So that was a really cool find.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we could probably spend the next hour talking about this stuff. But I think we're here
for people that don't know, what's give us a little bit of a breakdown exactly what Fuel is.
Fuel is it's a real basic, simple concept. And what we're doing is we are taking the cars.com audience data, and anyone who went to cars.com or was engaged in cars.com, we are then retargeting those individuals, reaching after they left cars.com and reaching them across all digital media formats in the form of a video. So it's reaching in-market shoppers and only in-market shoppers with digital video. And that digital video is across all forms. We're agnostic. We don't care whether it's pre-roll, on CNN, ESPN, or if it's on, OTT content, streaming media, or if it's social. Wherever that person we know is in market for a new or used vehicle, when they leave, we then follow them. And it's a retargeting effort, putting them in front of digital video. and it's been incredibly successful.
And so that definitely takes us into the some of the first party items that are a little bit on the at-risk side. And I did catch a little piece of the panel you were on at DMSC, diving into that. Unfortunately, the live stream from that was a little wonky for me, but
Oh, really?
so I didn't get to see the whole thing. But fill us in on what's going on. And it was the first question that Brian had for the panels. What's
Well,
ready to happen?
and the name of the session was what? Marketing in a cookieless world?
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
That was
And
interesting
I mean,
title.
the whole that was a key panel. Yeah, I mean, the beginning part of the first full day. But overall, that like we talked about earlier, that whole session that Brian Pash put on in Napa was wonderful. One, because we were getting back together again in person, but there was with that session there were some real key takeaways too. Where number one, and this actually got to be, this was like further escalated and kind of emphasized in all the sessions throughout the day of how important first party data is in a cookieless world in preparation. So, I mean, we all knew it's coming, and then like a month and a half ago, maybe Google actually announced it's been delayed, and that's nice. It's been delayed. It's give us a nice sigh of relief. Okay, we have a little more time to prepare for it, as opposed to rushing in preparation, and it gives us time to prepare to do it right. But the core is it's still going to happen, and the ability to get identifiers from people engaged with your environment is so important. Getting them to it's an exchange, it's a relationship that you form with that person visiting, and that's why the emphasis on first party data is so important. And then marketing, using first party data in your marketing efforts in the future is so critical. And it's actually why the endemic sites, the endemic marketplaces are so well positioned for the future as well. But I'll also be that when we talk about the takeaways, one of the biggest things is that it's the ability to have first party data, but the most important, the best, highest quality first party data, I'm going to tell you, we're second. The number one first party data is the dealer's first party data by far. So whether that's in the form of a website visit, CRM, DMS records, any of that, that is golden. And the dealership really needs to be honed in on using that, cleaning it, expanding it, and really protecting it too, to make sure that whoever's using that it stays in the right hands and it's not distributed to someone that they're not aware of. Because that can happen, like secondary tags and all that, sister tags and such. And we're the same way at cars.com. We're very conscientious of our first party data because that is by far the second best quality data after the dealer's first. And so and that's actually why we formed Fuel. It's basically taking cars.com first party data and making it available to dealers to push their message or to show their message in front of people that have given a super strong signal that they're in market right now for a newer used vehicle. And that at the conference, that was re-emphasized throughout as an important key point. It was almost like the quest for first party data is almost the theme of that conference, and so that combined with the cookieless future and Brian Pash, and something we always knew, but we knew, or Brian Pash kind of validated about Google data and how it's really not what may be cracked up to be. I mean, yes, it's a standard norm, it's acceptable, it's a comfort thing to buy, but Brian really exposed that most people that come through Google are not in there for purchases or new used vehicle. I think he said, if I look at the slides right, or if I remember the slides right, it was like over 65% are there for fixed ops related inquiries. And
I believe
that's
that.
something we've always known, but he does a great job of breaking it down. I think he's going to be coming out with a report specifically on what he learned. And he did that, objectively through, I think he used Dealer eProcess and Vista Dash. And then he also made reference to the cars.com audience data and the importance of first party. So something we've been seeing that he's going to be validating.
Well, Jeff, do you know how many people utilize your service department that didn't buy their Mercedes from you?
I don't know what the percentage is offhand, but it's a pretty high percentage. I mean, we're a little bit different just because of where we're located. Um, and I mean, we actually, being one of the very few high end dealerships within probably an hour to an hour and a half radius, people actually purchase from us because, they've got the opportunity to get the car serviced here. And, and on top of that, we've got, you know, a fantastic service department. But it's funny because of being in such a smaller town, you wouldn't expect to see so many Mercedes Benz driving around. This is a pretty, pretty big Benz area. You don't see a lot of BMWs or Lexus. It's all Mercedes Benz in this area. So, our service retention wise, we knocked that out of the park. But yeah, we still have a pretty high percentage of people that did not purchase from us and bring their car. Typically, what that is though is people that have purchased their car down in the DC metro area and realize afterwards that our shop labor rate is so much cheaper. And if they just drive an hour, they can save maybe 100, 200, 300 bucks.
Well, the reason I asked that.
Sorry, Alex, let me ask Jeff a question if you don't mind.
Well, there was a question in there.
Out too. What's that?
I was going to say, so to your point there, Chris, is that I think most dealers have more customers utilizing the service department than they do, more people utilize service who didn't buy from that dealership. And I think when dealers start to look at the actual ratio, it's a pretty big number, surprisingly big.
Right. Well, actually, what Brian pointed out too in one of his closing sessions was, a dealer, and Jeff, this might be the case with you too. If you think about the spend of a dealership, their digital spend on new and used vehicles, that type of messaging versus service. And Brian was saying, service department might get $5,000 worth of the budget, whereas the new and used vehicles, I've heard of some dealerships spending, with 2 or 3 points, spending over $40,000 a month on Google. I'm like, oh my God, because, so much that really isn't new and used, it's really service related. And
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, we've I would say probably the average dealership, break down on a percentage. What would you say, Alex? Maybe 10, 15% of digital marketing goes towards the service department, with the rest going over to.
That would be a big fixed spend right there.
Yeah, I'm being generous. Yeah. But I mean, and typically what they are spending on the service side is because it's OEM mandated. Maybe it's some paid search, maybe it's some retargeting or remarketing. But a lot of times at the dealership, some of that technology gets placed over into the marketing side. So maybe it's an online scheduling piece. I'm not saying that belongs in the marketing side, but if you walk into a dealership, a lot of times they're still looking at it that way. And then also,
the big takeaway from the conference was that dealers are thinking they're spending, with Google and getting in-market shoppers for newer used vehicles, and they're not. They're not hitting those people through Google. They're getting more people that are more interested in service, and that's good for service, but it's a big waste if your purpose is to reach in-market shoppers.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we're coming up with some good fodder for that for sure, Chris.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I like fodder like that.
Yeah. So there are some questions that are being asked by Rick Buffkin in particular. If you guys want to jump into those, we can. It's about data protection, and it's something kind of interesting. I think I know where he's coming from, and that the Cars Inc., Cars.com mixed with Dealer Inspire, for example, does have access to some really amazing first-party data, obviously. And so, there are always questions, especially when you think of Google, about how do you protect the data and stuff along those lines. So let me throw out what he's asking here. So,
Sure.
how do you know if the data being distributed out without the dealer's knowledge?
Distribute without the dealer's
And
knowledge.
He's got
When
a,
he says the data, does he mean, I'm going to assume he's talking about anything on Google, but if he's talking about the cars.com data that comes in, we are actually incredibly protected. That's actually one of my roles, to closely watch and audit. And everyone, we have a partnership that the only group that has access to that data is the Cars Fuel team. We're actually taking strides to make sure that no one else is. So if we have a relationship really with the trade desk, with Facebook, with Amazon DSP, with other ones too, Adobe. I'm platform agnostic. But with every one of those relationships, part of the agreement is that the only ones who have access to that account with the cars.com data is Cars and the Fuel team. And that's legally binding. And when a dealer works with us, that's part of our agreement, our understanding with the dealership is that we're acting on his behalf. We use the cars.com data, but we can ingest the dealership's first party data as well if the dealer wants to include that, wants to blend their first party data with cars.com first party data. And that by far is the strongest signal any dealership can have, really. And when I say cars,
I was going to say, I mean, that would
just about the endemic sites. I'm not just saying cars, but Trader, KBB, Gurus. Those are strong. Those are really strong signals as well. It's just that with cars we have the fuel offering to actually put out in a digital video form exclusively. But again, that first party data and protection of that is critical, top primary responsibility on our part. So we go to extremes to protect it.
And we had a time there, where some agencies were coming out saying they can get access to the data, they can do it. And Facebook put a very specific document out for us saying it is Cars data. You have to get it through Cars. It's not something that you can access elsewhere. So it was really wonderful for them to put a one-sheeter together for us around that as well.
Yeah, we have a good relationship with Facebook.
Yeah.
And again, we only tap into our cars.com data on Facebook. We don't use any outside peripheral signals. There's certainly no lookalikes or modeled audiences.
Well, I'm sure Rick would be interested because he's a client of yours.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe Rick, what he's asking is there any technology or tools out there? Because as you had mentioned earlier, if you got some different plugins on your dealership website and they're looking at that data, that first party data, and maybe they are selling it, maybe they're obtaining that data and not letting the dealership know. Are you guys familiar with any tools or any technology out there that would let the dealership know that maybe this is going on? I know we've had some of these discussions over in the forums, and in the past we've I don't want to say we've caught a few companies, but there's been a few vendors or a few companies in the industry that's maybe had their hands smacked for potentially doing this.
Yeah, and they should. I mean, there's some practices out there that I really question, and we are not going to do it at cars.com. When I was at Oracle, we had the opportunities to kind of explore those avenues. We took a pass. I know exactly what you mean, Jeff. But yeah, with the you have widgets put on the dealership websites, and those widgets get line of sight, and there's sister tags that can be placed. I do know that Joe Chura and the DI team have a close agreement and understanding, and it's about a trusting relationship. You don't just put any widget on your sites, and then there's obviously legal docs and protection that's instilled. So again, you want to go with a reputable carrier that makes that part of their DNA, protection of the data. And that's what we do at cars.com across all of our entities.
Now you mentioned, the biggest bang would be to take that first party data from the dealership and blend it with your dealer or with your data as well. Is that something that any dealership can do no matter what platform they're on?
I love that last part of the question there, Jeff, no matter what platform they're on. Because we're on all that we are. Yes, first of all, I answer your question. Yes, we can. We can integrate with social, with programmatic, but it's the no matter what platform. It's just a matter. The customer determines how they're going to be communicate or how they're going to consume the content. We don't determine that. So we have to have that relationship with all the platforms, and basically we can ingest the first party data. We've been doing it in bulk. To be honest with you, no, because we haven't needed to. Our cars.com data volume has been strong, especially at the zip code level, which we sell it at, because the dealership owns the zip code, and we can populate that zip code with high, strong signals. If the dealer wants to include the first party data to blend it together, absolutely we can do that. And that's actually how a lot of agencies have survived, and had good quality data over the years, because they basically take the dealer's first party data, retarget it, do all the spend on Google and Facebook with that, and boom, the budget shot. But they really haven't done anything to expand that fishing net further. So and I always say they've been preaching to the choir when they use only their first party data. So you've got to have the ability to, you think about it, is you have a big table, your own first party data might be the size of a large plate on that table. But the entire table is what the potential in-market audience size is there. So you have to go beyond the people that already know you. And that's why blending together with Cars' first-party data is a super strong strategic move.
And when it comes to fuel, a lot of clients have loved the fact that it's so turnkey, where if we want to start targeting the first-party data with sight, sound, motion, and emotion, they don't have to go through another solution. They can just do it very easily with us, and it's ready to roll.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge advantage. So you had mentioned, just as I guess take a step back here, you guys obviously speak to a lot of dealerships. Going back to the Google data, and knowing that so much of that data is really driven towards the service side of the business. But yet I know for a fact tons of dealerships out there are still spending, and you sort of mentioned this, crazy money on the sales side. Is there something that we can get out there? Is there an easy way for a dealership to maybe audit that? What type of conversations are you having with the dealerships to sort of help point that out and drive that message home for them to see, look, you could potentially be wasting a lot of money here?
No, that's a great perspective, Jeff, because if you think back in the day when Google was just starting to break in itself in the automotive retail, you could get a keyword for like what? 10, 15 cents cost per click. That was wonderful.
Way back.
I'm going to say that was like over 10 years ago. But now that one keyword cost per click is somewhere up to, even close in some markets, up to $4.50 just for that one click. And what Brian Pash and the sessions will be exposing, or the DMSC sessions exposed, is that most of those people are not in market for a new or used vehicle. And I think the key here is changing the mindset from media planning to audience planning. And when you're thinking about media planning, which we've been doing for 50 plus years, and then lately in digital, it's okay, I'm very comfortable spending on Google and Facebook because that's a very easy buy. Okay, that's what we're doing. That makes sense. They tell me they have in-market shoppers. That'll be exposed, obviously. We've always known it, from common sense, but I love how it's going to be broken out. But the way that we should determine how we're spending our marketing dollars as a dealership is now technology allows us to pinhole and take an audience first approach. So granular targeting. So the first question should not be, okay, in what media should I spend my money? And then I break it out, the dollars, the percentages on the media channel. That's media planning. We all know what that is. Now the first question should be, who do I want to reach? Who's my target? Do I want to reach? What's the purpose of the campaign? And then decide, okay, what data sources are going to get me that target? And then decide how I'm going to reach them regardless of communication platform. And that's why at Fuel we're communication platform agnostic. I don't care. I want to have a strong relationship with all the platforms, and I do. But the most important thing is that I'm well positioned with cars.com because I'm selling only in-market shoppers. And there's no peripheral. There's no model data. There's no lookalikes. These are 100% people pure who've raised their hands. I've got a car issue right now that I have to resolve in the next 30 days.
And I may be jumping the gun here a little bit. I know we'll get into it some more, but now we have visibility into the consumer journey. Like once people come over to the dealer's platform and to their property, to their website, we could see exactly what they're engaging with, what pages they're going with, if they're coming back, and thoroughly where their interest is. And we have this data now to start sharing with our clients, and they're loving seeing these stories and things that you just don't get visibility to in such as like Google Analytics, having the full itemized and the full aggregate of the story that's actually happening.
You ever get any aha moments from dealers when you're talking to them about, this is a fancy form of drip campaigning or anything along those lines?
Aha moments. I don't know about drip campaigning, but I do know one aha moment. I was in a call with Terry Loffridge, who's our COO, and he has a strong dealer network. Wonderful guy, really smart. I love learning from him. But this aha moment came when a dealership in, I think it was the St. Louis, I don't remember exactly what metro it was. We talked to so many. But he was telling us he was spending over $100,000 a month on, which included linear, which included, linear cable, Google, Facebook, all the typicals. And we asked him, okay, well, who are you targeting? Who are you specifically targeting? He goes, well, whoever sees my campaign. And it was like, oh my God, that's nice. That's a luxury. You could do that. But especially now in the COVID era, or this cloud we're dealing with, where dealers have to be more, scrutinize, their spend. We don't have that luxury to do spray and pray advertising and targeting anymore. So the aha moment came for me listening to Terry talk to that dealer, and it's a dealer talking to a dealer, so they have their own sort of communication waves, right? And you don't know that, Jeff. The dealer suddenly realized, oh my God, why am I spending this much on demographic targeting and not honing in just on in-market shoppers? So whether that's a form of drip, I don't know, but it's definitely, we've had that, we've seen that light bulb go off many times when we put fuel in front of the dealers, and especially the metrics that AJ was referenced. Does it work? Then we walk them through that, and it's eye opening as well.
Alex, I don't know if you recall, but I think it's probably been over 2 years. It's funny because not that I'm having an aha moment, but just now that I'm piecing everything together, you and I had a conversation. We may even had a Refresh Friday where we discussed this exact topic, where we said there's going to be a time where dealerships are going to have to figure out how not to market and advertise the way they currently are, and things aren't going to be they're not going to be campaign driven. There's going to be a time where we actually go after each individual that we know is in the market and serve them the relevant ads, the relevant message based on their shopping behavior. It just only surprises me that we have these conversations so far in advance on Dealer Refresh, on Refresh Fridays. And I don't know, it's something that puts a spark back underneath my seat whenever something like this happens. And I know some of this has been going on for a while, but it's amazing to see how far things have come, and I guess sort of a short period of time, but not really.
This is still advanced. You've still got so many marketing agencies out there that are. I wouldn't be surprised if they're still walking in with a newspaper saying, "Hey, you should buy some of this."
I hope not.
So. I just had a rep here 2 hours ago.
Well, speaking of buying, there's a great question. You gonna pull out the newspaper ad they were trying to?
Nah, it was. Yeah, it just was. It was I guess they sell for newspaper and radio. And just like. I feel bad for these people that come in, and
that's an extremely targeted medium now, right?
Extreme,
for sure. Do you think we'll ever?
Technology allows us to do granular targeting that it hasn't really offered, and even like 5 years ago, Jeff. I mean, the especially with programmatic buys, It enables you to populate in your own account who you want to reach, and then it's a combination of getting inventory available. So I
Mm-hmm.
actually, when I was at Oracle, again, it was Facebook and Google, but we were just trying to emphasize and introduce the whole concept of programmatic, and that's actually when the concept of, well, I like calling it streaming media, but suddenly OTT became the key word, OTT content. But even like 2 years ago, OTT hadn't surfaced, and I would venture to say to do it programmatically. Where you have the ability to fine tune and reach only in market shoppers. Because I know the linear and the cable companies have migrated and emphasizing OTT, but I don't think they can get granular like the programmatic process or the programmatic platforms can.
No, I mean
So
it's
to
still
hit
pretty
only
much
in market shoppers.
yeah, it's still pretty much a pray and spray campaign. As I guess they're able to show every now and then they'll say, hey, we're able to capture this segment of buyers that we feel as if is in market. But that's about as granular that I believe
Yeah,
it
but you have to
gets.
have them define what is in market. I've seen
Oh
their
yeah,
presentation
of
too.
course, yeah.
Brand in
Well,
market, and it feels like there's
that's always that's
23,000
always a scary
people.
question.
Yeah, well, but that's the question dealers should ask. You're absolutely right. Dealers should ask that question now. Define in market for me. Can you get me only in market?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great tip.
Yeah, define in market's a good first step.
Yeah.
Well, can we take a step back, though? There's a great question from Mitch Gallant along the lines of costs. So he's asking how should he be paying the vendor? And are you all doing anything to do this a little differently?
We definitely do it differently. I actually think the CPM is, I'm hoping it goes the way of the dodo. Um, it's, it's a cost per thousand, and what is really included in that thousand. And if we're talking automotive, people who are in market right now for a new year's vehicle, maybe 5% of that thousand is in market. So what we do at Fuel is we say it's not about cost per thousand, it's about reaching someone in market and on a video view and video only. And it's 10 cents. So every single time that a video appears and the person watch the video at least 50% of the way through the duration, it's only 10 cents a view. And so that's how we kind of look at it. And we do that comparison to Google. The click. I mean, do you want to pay $4, $4.50 for one click, or would you like to pay 10 cents for someone that's really given a strong signal that they're in market? So I think he's right. The mindset needs to change, and let's get away from this cost per thousand and hone in on what an in-market shopper is.
Yeah.
I'd pay $4 for the right click. I think
For
that
the right one, yeah.
Yeah. So, but that has to be backed by the right creative, the right content. That's it's
right
more than
audience,
just
but
hitting
comes down to
that audience. You've got to hit them with the
Alex,
right message at the
the
right
audience are
time.
not a market for a new or used vehicle, so you got to take that price. You're only reaching a third. 2/3 of that is complete waste.
And Alex, you hit the nail on the head. It all starts with the appropriate, relevant campaign. Jeff, you said earlier with your dealership, with your service department, you can come an hour and have a better experience here, have a better value. How are you getting that across to those people an hour away and hour and a half away? I know I'm one that recently bought a vehicle, and my experience, even though it's more convenient at the dealership I bought it from, my experience in the service department hasn't been wonderful. So I'm like, okay, I'm willing to drive a little bit more to make sure the things I'm asking are completed. And that's one of the things we really want to try. We get across with the creative, and that's what we really hone in on with our dealers monthly, is making sure you're not just putting out this offer. You're not just putting out that you need vehicles, that you're not just putting out you have a service department. Is it convenient? What's the experience like? Is it safe? Tell me why. What differentiates you from everybody else in the market? That's key from the start. No matter the audience, that's always key in the start.
So do you think we'll completely do away with this top of mind, this type of campaign marketing? I mean, one of the rebuttals to that is, I want my brand out there, whether it's billboard, TV, radio, and I was looking at this, this lady that came in earlier, and it's a lot of radio. But and they come in and there's and that's their sales pitch is typically, yeah, we're gonna. It's not always about being so granular. It's not always about targeting that person that's in market today. Obviously, you want to do that, but you also want them to know that you exist. So whenever they do come into the market, they know that you exist. Is there any? You think we're completely past that value?
No, I don't. I think it's a good point that you want a balance, but you got to be careful on your spend, and the
Mm-hmm.
balance comes into priorities, right? So I consider the branding that's a nice luxury. That's good to have. You can do it. So prioritize first of all. Jump, make reaching people right now, here and now, looking to buy a new or used vehicle. Make that top priority. Get as many data sources, again, we're going back to defining what a market shopper is. Get a comfort level with that, and then all the data sources that have in the market, exercise that completely full. Make that your top priority, and then your secondary priority could be your branding.
Which is a bit of a flip from what
Yeah.
most dealers concentrate on the branding first, because that's more fun.
Yep. It was interesting too. There's a dealership that I walked into a while back, and I became really good friends with the owner. And majority of his spend was going to radio, and I thought it was very interesting because when I walked into the dealership, there was a table there for every vehicle sold, 3 free months of Sirius. And I'm like, it's just interesting because what you're doing is you're promoting me not to hear your radio campaign. So and doing streaming radio, and it just got them thinking like where we're at, and just making sure the priorities are ranked correctly.
Yeah, I've heard someone bring that up before. That's funny.
So what kind of creative works?
Yeah, who doesn't want to know the answer to that question?
We've seen everything across the board. We've seen some wonderful new offers. We've seen some wonderful creatives around having the most particular inventory on used and starting at this price and just creating that urgency, but also making sure that experience, convenience message is in there. Vehicle acquisition has been really big lately, but again, I bring it back to not just we want your car, like why you should come to our car. Do you want to negotiate over here and go through this experience, or you want our experience in and out? We're giving you this much more than the offer down. Again, it comes down to not what's being said, it's how it's being said. And more importantly, we also have a very talented creative team, and a lot of people I don't think realize this with Fuel, but if you work with Fuel, you also have access to this wonderful library of all these different messages that have already been flushed out from our creative team that we can semi-customize to the client to make sure we're really getting that differentiator across. But
and we know because of our experience over the last year what's working, what's not at this month and this moment in time.
And we've assessed a lot of our creative versus a lot of the dealer provided creative that they've given us, and our creative's been outperforming across the board. And I think
that's typically not tough to do. Come on now.
But again, it's we learn, we listen. We just don't go, okay, cool. What do you need right now? What's a struggle right now? It's okay, cool. Go ahead, Chris.
But it's also like how when we say it works, it's what are you gauging? What are you using as the measurement stick? And to us, the most important component is what after they're exposed to a campaign, whether it's dealer generated or Fuel generated, what's the post behavior with the dealer's environment, landing pages, website afterwards, and how engages that person on the dealership's environment? Because we do view through attribution, we have line of sight to that, and we share that with dealers on a monthly basis. And we can actually take every creative campaign and show them the performance of that campaign in relation to post-campaign exposure behavior.
And the most successful campaign results made sure that there was a consistent message on their website, on their landing environment, on the homepage. If you're getting this across all these different channels, all these different platforms, and video drives organic direct traffic. Like that's what it drives. That's what we see with our pixel attribution. So making sure, give you a perfect example. We recently had a client doing a very strong vehicle acquisition message, and he was only running it for about a month. And on both of their websites that they were using Fuel to promote this vehicle acquisition, one website, both websites, they had it very strongly, very prominently placed. We want your vehicle. Now, when they click out, they go to a VDP. It's there again. They had about a 27% increase from the month they started the Fuel campaign compared to the previous period to that specific page. Now, we had another dealership that was doing a similar message, but once you landed on their environment, it was buried. It wasn't prominent. It was very difficult to get to. And in 1 month, out of the 6,000 visitors they had to their website, only about 38 made it to the let us give you a value, your trade. And that's where we're able to have that consultative discussion on how do we get people to convert easier once they land on your property.
There's a problem with that. It's kind of a funny problem, but I've found this over the years, and I'm still finding this to be true, is that when you provide such a fantastic coordinated message, so you take somebody from one medium, say Facebook, you land them on your website, another medium, and you're totally answering their questions and giving them the hook and the cheese and everything. They drive in. They usually don't submit leads or pick up the phone. They just come straight to you. And so it creates that problem of how do you prove to the dealer that this whole coordinated effort actually is increasing their business.
Yes,
definitely. And it's a mix, right? It's a mix. It's the indicators. It's the journey. It's the consumer journey with the pixel, seeing, hey, we know definitively they were exposed to this campaign. They landed on your property. Here's the actions they took. And all the things within GA, it's all indicators, right? You can't definitively say this is the sole thing because of the fact that it drives organic direct traffic, but it's a great layer to the story to make sure that what you are doing is in fact doing what you would hope once people land on your property. And that's one of the biggest things we like to talk through and walk through with our clients regularly.
Well, that's also why we think Fuel stands out, because we've actually built the metrics to support exactly why Fuel is working for them, to show, this amount of people were exposed from the cars.com audience, and then this is the post behavior they took. Because technology allows us to, we've set up the tracking so we can actually follow someone's behavior with, like we said, with the view through attribution. And then we also get a good chance of, we tap into Google Analytics. That's nice. But again, it's a nice to have. I would not use that as a source of truth as to whether it's working or not. But really, the view through attribution is much more advanced and gives the dealership. AJ, you've been with calls. The dealerships love digging in, looking at one individual and seeing how they toggle back and forth between new used vehicles, used vehicles. And then when they came back a day later and did additional sessions on a different model. It's the ability to give them that line of sight makes such a difference.
But Alex, too, like you said, for those people that are just going to drive to you, just make sure the experience is consistent and true to what you're putting out there. It's wonderful to have this great message, but if the process isn't in place once they land on your lot, what's the point?
That's an old lesson from one of our great marketers. Jeff and I have followed for years. Seth Godin he said it's a meatball sundae. You make this. Yep, this beautiful sundae toppings on top. That's all your marketing, and then they come into your brick and mortar facility. It's just a regular old meatball. But when you put them together, they taste terrible. Yeah. Yep.
Great.
Glad you brought
Avoid
that
the
up.
meatball sundae. I love it.
Yeah, I've got his book right there. That one says all marketers are liars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another good one.
We were big fans of Seth, weren't we? Still
You
are.
even got me his action figure.
I did, didn't I? I forgot about that. That's great. Well, I don't, dealers really struggle. It's great. And it's fantastic you guys have a product out there for dealerships to use, because I know typically that's the struggle is how do you keep that consistent message? Okay, now, so you've got a message that works. You've got a brand that works. You've got, maybe a look and feel to your ads that work. But how do you keep that consistent across all the different platforms? You're not just, it's not just radio and TV anymore. Obviously now it's, my goodness, we advertise in so many different places, and how does a dealership manage all that? And the other issue is, so, we have a company that does video for us. We have a company that does our social. We've got a company that does our OTT. We've got our traditional side that does all of our radio and TV. And when you bring all the marketing together, nothing looks the same. I mean, it's all, and as hard as you work to try and coordinate everything together, and amongst the different services that you're using, it's never going to come together quite the way it needs to.
I'll let AJ tackle that too, but my initial response is that's exactly where we need to move the market to, or the mindset to, that you need it all to work together, and do that by starting with the audience. So who gives a damn about the media? Start with the audience, and then follow that audience wherever they go. And because the technology allows us to do that. And so if you have a one consistent message that you're going to send them this month, decide who they are, and then find a partner that's going to allow you to use that same message across all media platforms. The media is agnostic. The media is determined. Don't determine the media. Let the customer, the person you're targeting, determine the media. That's our point the whole time. AJ, do you want to add to that?
No, I was going to say that's why for us with Fuel, the programmatic is so valuable. These clients look every month, we go through, we show them exactly where their campaigns were placed, the websites, the social, everywhere. And the fact that what we're doing is we're just following people where they decide they want to consume content versus doing this media planning, saying, do I put so much over here? Do I put so much here? What about this platform? We just go where they decide they want to consume content, where they're most engaged, and get your campaign in front of you within milliseconds of them landing. And from our point of view, that's been just so effective, and dealers love seeing 300, 400, 500 different platforms every single month where they're being seen, and they didn't have to try to figure it out.
Don't buy NBC only. Don't buy one sports program only, because again, if you buy a sports program or a day part, maybe 5% of those people are in market. Now, it helps you with awareness. I got that part. But if your first priority is reaching a market shopper, don't buy the network channel. Buy the audience. And then you don't care. When you see the audience, you see the listings of the distribution channels that they were exposed to. That's actually great, but it's not like being all on NBC or MLB or NBA. It doesn't matter where they were. You found someone. You found them wherever they were consuming it, on their laptop, their mobile, their big screen. Doesn't matter.
Yep.
You just tell me I don't have to go learn TikTok, and I'm buying.
Oh, the TikTok discussion. Okay, you know what? I love it. It's intriguing to me. I don't think TikTok's ready yet to handle automotive retail, especially granular targeting. They're still broad, and until they get to that point, then we can have more serious conversations.
That's not even what TikTok's for, but we won't go there.
I think they need the right audience first.
Well, guys, in the last few minutes here, got one last question. Any advice that you can give the dealers right now?
It's pretty broad.
I would, I mean, again, we talked about change your mindset to audience planning from media planning. Second, we talked about when you have an in-market shopper, have them define what their in-market shopper is, the concentration of that in-market shopper and the overall audience buy. And then I can't reiterate enough, if you're buying OTT content or streaming media, have a metric related to view-through attribution to show performance on that. Don't accept just impressions or anything else. View-through attribution with a pixel to show post behavior.
And if I was catching your signals right earlier, because we were talking about what type of campaigns work, it almost sounds as if it's some type of why buy.
A strong why buy, a strong why come, a strong why you should trust us with your business, for sure.
Okay.
Like, it's got to be tied, no matter how good the offer is. The most
So
successful.
no, so none of those, $199 a month offer. If it's going to be in there, it's not the main message. The message is, we sort of know what you're looking. We're not going to tell the customer. We know what they're looking to purchase, but we know we have a pretty good idea of what they're looking to purchase already. Maybe there's something around pricing, but more importantly, it's that why buy message. It's showing the customer, here's the advantage for, shopping with our particular dealership.
How many dealers around you in the market are putting the same message out there around the best price, the most inventory? Again, it's a good start, but at the end, why? Like, why should I trust you?
Not really.
A dealer told me the other day, her goal is to make everybody a lifer. How do you do that?
Mm-hmm. Let all your customers know that you're family owned and operated since 1909.
Bing, bing, bing.
Every one of them.
Oh, and just to add, if I could, real quick, on just some of the advice, keep asking the questions. Keep asking your vendors the questions. Dig in a little deeper. One of the things, with Fuel, with our data, is it's not only the purity, the exclusivity of getting in front of this great audience from Cars.com, it's also the timeliness of getting in front of it. You're getting in front of them within a day of them coming and saying they're interested in a vehicle. And that's one of the things, too, that gets overlooked with a lot of the other solutions out there with the lookalike and tender audiences, is that timeliness piece never comes up. And there's usually a good reason for that.
That's a big
for sure.
point. Yep. And I think driving that one home just a little bit further, because I've noticed a number of e-commerce directors, internet managers who've been in the audience today, and I know that they love those first 2 weeks of the month where they're trying to get the specials and everything from their sales managers.
Favorite part of the month.
Yes. So that being timely and yeah. Anyway.
And from the creative standpoint, with Fuel, we always make sure, and then the best success comes with having that branding video constantly running, and then paired, once they're ready with their offers, getting those to us, and now the consumer's being hit on their CT, on their television with one message, and then on their mobile device with your offer, and hitting them multiple different places with both strong messages. So that way you don't go dark those first couple weeks of the month.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like you guys have put together one hell of a product. Maybe I need to sit through it myself again. I saw it quite a while back and was pretty impressed with what was going on. But I probably need a refresher course on that. And if there's any dealerships out there, anyone wants to or has maybe an additional question around this, how would they reach out to you, gentlemen?
I would love that. Anybody too. I know we have some. If you want reporting examples, looking at what we can provide, looking at the data, all the resources we have, I love to share what we're doing and just see if it's a logical fit for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, it's the contact with the Cars.com rep. It's also there's Fuel, the website, fuel.cars.com or fuel@cars.com. And it's the word's getting out. And especially now, since we sell exclusively by zip code, dealers are realizing, oh my God, I just locked in-market shoppers for the duration of this contract, and I'm the only one getting it. So it's growing, and that's that mindset. Now that we have the metrics to prove it working, and the mindset of owning zips, word is getting out quickly, and we're having dealers coming to us saying, "How do I get in?"
That's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is.
You guys, when the first time we had Fuel on Refresh Friday, it was Dean, and we were ended by a fire alarm, I think. And shout out.
I
to
was
Dean,
on that too. I remember that, Alex.
Yeah.
Take off.
Yep. They burned the chicken downstairs or something. I don't know, but it's a Mexican restaurant downstairs. But
well, we'll get a copy or the recording of this. Yeah, we'll get the recording of this over in the forums. But with that being said, appreciate both you guys jumping on, going over all this. And there's some great, really, I mean, no matter if you're using the product or something else. Some great takeaways, some great questions that dealerships need to be asking. But we'll get the recording over in the forums, and I'll let you guys know when that's up, and maybe you could add a few links to the different pieces of real estate that you guys.
That's a good idea. I mean, there's the typical
Okay.
fuel.cars URL, but in this case, I want to make sure that we have a whole.
But
field
gentlemen,
team
we
to
need
reach
to
out.
get more granular. You gotta get more granular in that. Can't just
You're right.
throw it
I
out
like
there.
that.
All right.
All righty.
All right, gentlemen. Have a great
Thank you.
weekend.
This has been a lot of fun. Really appreciate the time here too, Jeff and Alex.
Thank you so
You
much
got
for
it.
having me.
As always, we'll do it again.
All right.
All
Talk to you
right. Take
soon.
care.
Hopefully we'll see you at a conference soon too, right?
Yeah, I think we're going to try and
We're-
be a digital dealer this fall. So
Okay.
Try and make it work.
And then hang out the chandelier afterwards, right?
There we
something
go.
like that.
Alex, let's look through some Ted Williams cards.
Yeah.
Oh
There we
God.
go.
There you go.
AJ's passion. All right.
All right, see you,
Thanks,
gentlemen.
guys. We'll see you.
Guys. Yep.
Bye.